War 3 Predictions, Volume 3. America will be invaded. I said that Russia would win in Ukraine and that the most important success of that war for them was to drain our resources, which they did. I told you that South America would turn on the U.S. and start allowing our enemies entry into their ports and start building up resources, soldiers, and more. And remember that I said 9 months ago that Israel would become the prime target of the Eastern powers, and that Russia and China would find their path to Israel through their allies in Eastern Europe and the Middle East, which they've done. So what's next on the table? Folks, there was a lot of people who were in absolute denial when I made those first prediction videos, saying that America is so powerful they could never be defeated. They're like one in like 187 or 192 countries, and 80% of the countries absolutely can't stand our guts because we've become a global terror. America is Babylon. We've done absolutely dreadful things. Just in the past, 20 years, we've killed millions of innocent civilians for imperialistic and colonialistic goals. Gaddafi in Libya was one of the greatest leaders in modern history. He was a saint to his people, and we slaughtered him in the streets because he was no longer going to purchase oil in U.S. dollars. Amongst other things like taking care of his own people, making Africa and the Middle East strong. Anyways, we're the baddies. We're the bad guys. And people just aren't getting this. The entire world is surrounding us. We will be invaded, and we will be destroyed. And we need to be. And I'm not rooting for it in some sick nihilistic way. We are a problem. We hurt millions and millions of people every year with our policies, with our bad economics, with our greed, with our violence, with our fear and paranoia, and we can't be bargained with. When the Soviet Union fell, we made a promise we wouldn't move NATO to the east. That's all we've done since. We break all of our promises. We violate the sovereignty of any country for any reason. I mean, we did it in South America because we wanted their bananas. This isn't a joke. So here's what's going to happen next. What's happening in the Middle East? That's going to pick up really quick. And the one country that's at odds with all the other countries, let's just do the math, folks. Once that country falls, I'm not even allowed to say the name of the country because I'll be called an anti-Semite. I could literally say every other country in the world and say if they're going to win or lose a war. But if I say that country loses a war, I'll be called a name and be called a bigot. Anyways, that country's going to fall, okay? Another thing, military bases are being attacked right now. Do you understand what that means? Military bases don't get attacked. We're being surrounded right now, and there's been several attacks inside of the country from our enemies that they've tried to make you think are domestic attacks. They're not going to tell you that we're being invaded. They're not going to tell you that we're being attacked. They're not going to tell you if we're about to be nuked. America doesn't care. It's a psychopathic, rabid animal in the corner that knows it's going to lose, but does not have the decency or humility to surrender and apologize and pay for its crimes in a way where it doesn't have to go down in flames. We are being occupied. We are hostages in this situation, and we better pray that the enemies of our country have more mercy than we've had on the entire world. All right, so like I said, the dominoes are going to topple really fast from this point. Once that country gets taken out, Syria, Iran, Iraq are going to be military bases for Russia and China. Turkey is going to do a full alliance with Russia, China, and all the other countries that support the East. At which point, Europe will be given an ultimatum. Stand down or be obliterated. And then there's going to be some very interesting things that happen with Switzerland. Mark my words. Because Switzerland is the seat of the devil. Because Switzerland is the seat of power for the West. But they can't get to Switzerland until they get through a couple of their bodyguards in the Middle East and Eastern Europe. Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, Australia. Unfortunately, because there's a giant ocean between you and us, and we're the reason that you guys get things like free healthcare, you're going to be absorbed. We can't get to you fast enough. We're going to be fighting a war on the southern border. We're going to be scrambling all of our nuclear readiness aircraft and submarines to protect ourselves from the Poseidon missile that can create a tsunami on the East Coast. We're going to be fully staffed in Cheyenne Mountain, making sure an ICBM does not hit Yellowstone and activate the supervolcano. This war can go one of four ways. Okay? One is that all this is just a theater thing. And Revelations is really the thing they're trying to pull off. Like, so it'll get really crazy over in the Middle East and all of a sudden the Antichrist will show up and they'll sign a great peace deal and it'll be beautiful. And then you know we're just in a game and just nothing matters because they're going to play this stupid game. In the real world, in the realist perspective, America will be invaded. You might say it's going to take 10 years. You might say it's going to take 5 years, but I promise you it can happen in 2 years. Now, in that scenario, America can either fight to the death or surrender and hold the right people accountable, right? Like the people who vouched for Gaddafi's murder, the people that vouched for Assad's assassination attempt, these types of people. Put those people out there and hold them responsible so the rest of the innocent Americans who, especially the ones that were trying to speak up about this, they can be spared. We can be given mercy. We had no control over the situation, and we did what we could to try to speak out about it and stop it. And another scenario is the people rise up, organized, and demand peace because no one fights, no one hits the red buttons, no one pulls the trigger because we're done with this shit, because we know Atlantis can exist, and we're ready to have it.
In the dream, it was a dream dealing with America. I heard people robbing each other. They were breaking into each other's homes. People were trying to steal things from cars on the street. People were stealing food. People were absolutely trying to take things from each other, and they were doing it by force and willing to die for it. And all of a sudden, I looked at it and I said, what is going on? I grabbed my head and I said, what is going on? And all of a sudden, I saw China and Russia coming into the United States of America. I don't know that understand it, but they were military, they were soldiers, and they were coming in to maintain the peace. I don't know where the U.S. military was or anything like this, but they were coming in, and what they were doing was putting people in concentration camps. They were arresting people. Chinese soldiers and Russian soldiers were arresting people, and they were taking guns from everybody. I grabbed my face and I said, what? I said, what are Chinese soldiers and Russian soldiers doing in America?
I had this dream, and it was so real. It felt so real. It was crazy. In the dream, I'm at Santa Monica. In Santa Monica, California, I'm over by like the pier, which is like, it's got like seems like a fair carnival type atmosphere at the pier. It's a real famous pier in Santa Monica, California, and it was in the daytime, and it was real sunny, and for some reason I thought it was the weekend, you know, and everyone was just going about their business, and what happened was we were looking out towards the ocean, and everyone was looking out there, and what we saw was like a foreign navy, and it was either like the Chinese Navy or like the Russian Navy, and it was all out there, and there were submarines out there that had surfaced, and they were just kicking it out there, and no one seemed alarmed. It was like entertainment. Everybody was looking at it, checking it out, and wondering, you know, what's that about and whatnot. And everyone started just going about their business and stuff, and just staring at it and wondering what it was all about. There was nothing in the news about it or anything. It was like a surprise. It just showed up, and it was huge. It was all over the ocean out there. And I thought, wow, what's that about? But for some reason, I just had a bad feeling about it. Then all of a sudden, they started launching missiles, all types of like missiles, bombs, so to speak, towards the entire Los Angeles area, the entire coast there, and of the Los Angeles area, that entire harbor there. And they started bombing us, and people started panicking and running everywhere. And then I woke up.
Shalom, Ka'ala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yashayah, Ba'Shem Ruach Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yashayah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the videos we just watched. And we're going to get into the subject of America being invaded and how that's biblical. But let's go ahead and read this first. This is Jeremiah 51 and 14. Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yashayah of hosts, hath sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. So, in the videos that you have just watched, the first video was just a man who, made a prediction, right, based off of the things that he's seen. He's kind of like a military strategist. He kind of has, good insight on world political events. And as you heard him say, right, that America will be invaded. And why is that? Well, I'm sure he sees it within the best interest of the Russian and Chinese powers, right? He also stated some facts there, right? He noted that America is Babylon, and that America is the bad guys, right? That America has been behind many of the world atrocities. And another thing that he noted was that Switzerland, which is in the heart of Europe, is in fact the seat of power of these devils, and that's true. These devils, the elites of the world, the kings of Edom, and when I say Edom, I'm talking about the so-called Caucasian race, they have created Switzerland back in the 1200s, and that right there is basically the homeland of the majority of the world leaders. Okay, the banking cartels, the elites, they pretty much all stay in the land of Switzerland. This is why Switzerland is homes to thousands and thousands of underground bunkers, and why it's so heavily fortified and doesn't involve itself in any of the wars. Okay, this is also why a lot of the Nazis during World War II had homes and interactions with Switzerland. Is because, again, this is where the elites dwell. Now, I digress. That's a little bit besides the point. The main point being that even this guy, strategically speaking, was able to see that America is no longer safe. And from all the things that we've been seeing on the news lately, from these other nations rising up, getting stronger, threatening America, and with the recent influx of illegal immigrants, not only just from Mexico, but namely all over the world. That right there particularly pertains to this scripture here. You see, a lot of those people coming into this nation, they're not just immigrants seeking a better life. Not at all. I think just today I was watching Fox News, and they said that they caught 30 people that were on the terrorist watch list. And you could bet that there's a lot more that are getting by there. Now, a lot of these people, when you look into it, they're all basically being paid by UN-funded organizations which are helping them come to America. And why is that? Well, because you see, the elites have abandoned America. The usefulness of America has come and gone. And for them to bring forth their new world order, well, they got to bring America down. And how do they bring America down? Well, by destroying it and by allowing the perceived enemies of America to invade it. Right? First, they're gonna, invade it internally by sleeper cells, which is why you had the FBI recently come out and say that there are many flashing red lights regarding terror alerts, and that America needs to raise its alert level for preparedness against internal threats. And we can see this going on right now, right? From all these immigrants who are coming in. Not only are they just not staying in these border cities, but they're going throughout the entire United States as if they have plans on where they're going. Right? We've all seen the videos where you have somebody asking all the incoming immigrants what city they're going to, and they start touting, saying different city names and as if that's all they know. Right? They're also given credit cards, phones. Well, we're not ignorant to the devil's devices, right? And even though it's these devils that are doing this, that are behind this, you got to remember, it's the Lord who puts it into their heart to commit these atrocities, to commit these devilish plans, which are currently being prepared. Okay, it tells you right here, right? The Lord is going to fill America with men as with caterpillars, right? And this is likened down to when you have a field of vegetables, right? You have a garden, and all of a sudden you have a bunch of worms like caterpillars that have just all of a sudden showed up that are eating your crops, right? There's so many that you can't really do anything about it. Well, that's what the Lord is going to do to America. Okay, and at first it's going to more likely be these sleeper cell immigrants that are coming in, and then eventually it's going to be a full-on invasion, like the guy in the first videos, showed. Now the other guy, right? Or the other two guys, I should say. This video here. It's 50 dreams from just Christians and just people in America who had dreams of America being invaded. Okay, this is what the scripture talks about, how the Lord is going to send people in the last days dreams and visions of what's to come. And for this many people to have a similar dream like that, it's more than a coincidence, right? It's a vision. It's a warning from the Lord. Okay, and I'll share the link of this video in the descriptions if you want to watch this. Again, it's a 2-hour video, but for the most part, they all talk about how America is going to be invaded by Russia and China. Okay, this is Ezekiel 38 and 11. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates, to take a spoil, and to take a prey, and to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of all the nations. Right? Isn't America known as the great melting pot? You see that? Which has gotten cattle and goods and dwell in the midst of the land. So you see, this prophecy of America being invaded, it's all over the Bible, right? This is not just some, new understanding, right? When you go into, you can go to Google, type in America invasion, biblical prophecy, and you'll see so many breakdowns, and you'll see so many theses written out about it. But Bible scholars talking about how this is what it means, and that's because this is what it means, right? We've all heard the apostles and the brothers break this down. Well, now I'm breaking it down to you, right? This is Isaiah 47 and 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. You see, America, which is known as Babylon the Great, is considered the daughter of Babylon, right? It is the nation that has come after Babylon. Okay, and it was considered tender and delicate because why? Well, because it's never been defiled, it's never been invaded. Well, what does the scripture say, right? Not only is it going to no longer be considered tender and delicate, well, why would that be? Well, because America is going to be attacked. Okay, and that's going to happen with the invasion. Now, another thing too says there is no throne. This means that the Lord is going to ultimately break the scepter of the rulers. The time of America's rulership is over, and we're living in the very last days of the American Empire. And these devils, they've already have had this planned out for a long time, which is why, starting all the way back, in the 90s, you had a lot of bankers commit a lot of frauds with the savings and loans crisis that happened, I think, actually at the end of the 80s, like in 89. We had a lot of bankers and banks basically embezzling money. Well, and then you had a big movement in 2008 when you had a lot of the Wall Street bankers basically rob the American people of their 401s and pensions. And then from then, it just kept going. America is a former shell of itself, right? There's a famous saying from George Washington, the first president of America, that says, "The last act of a country is to rob its treasury." Well, that's pretty much what's happened to America. You see, the elites and also the government have basically all, written those blank checks. Just kind of like when your bank account is going to be empty, or basically you don't have enough money to pay the bills. And back in the days, what people would do is they would write all these fraudulent checks that they knew would bounce. That's basically what America's doing. Why do you think they're giving so much money to Ukraine? Why do you think in the last 3 years of the Biden administration that they've basically printed out $10 trillion of debt? Well, because you see, they're bleeding this cash cow, America, dead, right? Or I should say, they're bleeding it dry. Okay, and they're basically robbing the storehouses before it's over. This is Joel 2:20. "But I will remove far off from you the northern army, and I will drive him into a land barren and desolate, with his face towards the east sea, and his hinder part towards the utmost sea. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things." So there is going to be an event here in America that is going to cause the American government to take its army over there to Saudi Arabia. Now, we're already seeing that Israel is starting a war with Ishmael, and this is causing a lot of turmoil over there in the Middle East. Okay, this right here is likely going to be the catalyst that's going to drive all the nations over into the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which is right there in the Valley of Israel. Okay, well, what better fuel to start a World War III than to have America be invaded? Okay, and we've all seen movies where they've shown countries, come into America, invade it, take little parts of it under control, and that is more likely how it's gonna play out. Okay, but the thing is that the Bible prophesies that America, or Babylon the Great, the Golden City, that it will be invaded. This is Habakkuk 3:16. "When I heard, my belly trembled, my lips quivered at the voice. Rottenness entered into my bones, and I trembled in myself, that I might rest in the day of trouble. When he cometh up unto the people, he will invade them with his troops." So, just like Habakkuk, when he seen these things, he trembled, right? He got, what does it say? That rottenness entered into his bones, right? What does that mean? That means that, when people say they were so scared that their bones shaked, right? That they felt weak from inside. Well, that is how a lot of us are gonna gonna feel in this day when we hear about this news, right? Even just thinking about it and watching a lot of these videos, it makes you feel a certain way. But you gotta remember, right? We gotta have faith in the Lord and continue to do this work and stay in His righteousness. Because again, when you serve the Lord, you're given that blessing. You're given that spiritual protection. And again, like, what is the scripture? What does it say in, I think, 2nd Ezra's? Right, death, famine, the sword, all these things are created for the wicked, right? Not for the righteous. So, though America is about to go into some crazy events shortly, remember, Akim, this is for Esau's judgment and not the 1/3. And also, with Esau is going to be the 2/3, the wicked 2/3, I should put it, right? All of these false Christians coming out against this truth, basically scoffing. See, this is how the Lord is going to recompense all of these 2/3 and these Edomites, right? He's going to bring down these Edomites and their empire, and along with them are going to be all those Israelites who are, holding hand in hand with Esau, trying to make the truth of the Lord to none effect, right? The Lord's going to show the world what's really going on, and when that happens, people are going to realize that what the Lord wrote in the Bible is more than just, words in a book. And they're going to realize that the Lord sent out His men to warn His people and to condemn the wicked. So hopefully this video was edifying, Aki. Until the next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yashayah, B'Hashem Ruach HaKodesh. Shalom.